slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Hey team, hope you're all doing well. Today this topic I wanted to go over how I ran a 2:26 marathon at age 35. I ran that time at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon, and I don't know how my own story can assist you, but I hope that hearing some of the things I was doing, even at age 35, can help you in your own training. In that particular race, most important thing I want to share with you that looking back on it, the key takeaway is make sure you're eating your breakfast 3 hours prior to the start of your marathons. I think that in that marathon, I ate my breakfast about an hour and a half to 2 hours before, and in some cases that's enough, but I think 3 hours is the better bet because you have plenty of time to get rid of that waste and not have to deal with any issues in the race. I did. I was running with Hillary Chariot, Pius Niantica, Mario Mendoza, and Jason Parks in that race, and we were all in a big group together. There were a few other Kenyans in the race as well that were pretty close to us. Philip Kamau, who ended up running 2:27 for 7th place. He was running with us for the majority of the race as well. But at mile 17, I had to jump in a porta-john, and I lost about 2 to 3 minutes off my finish time. I ended up running 2:26.42, finished in 5th place. But I think that with marathon running, you do have to make sure that you're running tangents in the race. You're not running any further than you need to. You're making sure you're eating your breakfast at the right time rather than having to deal with any type of hiccups in the race that's going to screw up your finish time. And looking back, I know I probably would have ran probably a high 2:22 to 2:24 in that race. I can't do anything about that now. And so I think that with the marathon training, as you prepare for your own races, just make sure that you're really strategizing your preparation. You're making sure that you're following a longer buildup, minimum 16 weeks, preferably between 20 and 24 weeks. I think 24 weeks is really the optimal time frame. I did make a video recently about how to train for a marathon in 1 year, and I'll leave that at the end of this video. You can check that out if you want. That's in specific. That's not for every runner, okay? In most cases, you can run a phenomenal marathon in 16 to 24 weeks. 1 year that's more so for beginner runners or runners that have been away for a long time or that are just really want to have a long-term approach to preparing for races. Breaking 2:27 at age 35, even though I know I probably would have ran a few minutes faster in that race, that was a quality race for me. At the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis, I hit the 10K point in that race in 33:13. Pius Niantica, who ended up finishing in second in 2:24.02, actually went out in 1:05.49 through the first half. Okay, I hit the first half with the other group of runners in 1:10.08, so I was still at 2:20 marathon pace through the first half, and obviously I was aiming for improving upon my PR of 2:19.35. So I was not trying to run conservative. I was in great shape. 6 weeks prior to this race, I was probably fitter than I ever have been in my life. I did a 20-miler 6 weeks out in 1:50.02 when I was still stationed with the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I was pretty blown away. I mean, I averaged 5:30 mile pace for those 20 miles. And I remember going out, it was like 54 minutes going out, maybe like 56 minutes and change coming back. And I remember getting up, starting that run at 5 a.m. because I had to be at work at 8 a.m. So I really had to get up very early to do that workout. Again, prioritize your time. If you're working full-time prior to these big races, you just have to really dig down and decide for yourself how badly you want success in this sport and in this event. Marathoning is so difficult. If you're brand new to it, or if you're more of a track athlete, maybe focusing on 1,500 to 10,000 meters, Of course, continue to work on your speed. Even if you're not really a track athlete, but you're stronger in the longer distances, we still need to work on our speed. So I was heavily doing workouts that were well under 5-minute mile pace, even training for this particular event at age 35. I'm now training for the Valencia Marathon, which is my first marathon, the 2024 Valencia Marathon, which is my first marathon in 13 years. The last marathon I ran was the 2013 California International Marathon when I was 37, and I ran 2:32:55 in that race. Again, even in that race, I think I went out at like 1:09 through the first half. I've always been focusing on running much, at competitive times. But again, it's not always going to work. There's times where you go out a little too aggressive, and I've certainly made that mistake in the past. You go out a little too aggressive, and then you really pay for it in the second half. And then other times I've went out fast. When I ran 2:19, I went out 1:07:09, came back with a 1:12:26. In this case, I ran at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon. I went out 1:10:08 and basically came back in a 1:16, around 1:16:36, somewhere around there. But again, that does count with the Porta-John stop, having to take that emergency stop. So that's the biggest takeaway for you to remember, is just make sure you're eating your breakfast 3 hours prior to the start of your marathon. I do remember Monumental is a relatively flat course, so I highly recommend it if you're wanting to run a new PR. That is a great course to go after. The competition is always competitive there. The year I ran it, the winner, as I mentioned before, was Hillary Chariot, who was with me at the half. We ran together all the way up to 17 miles until I had to make that emergency stop. He ended up winning in 2:22:20 to win the race, averaging 5:25. And I finished in at 5:35 mile pace in 2:26:42. So I think the thing that helped me in that race, though, is, again, I was still focusing on hydrating very well. I did take in several gels in that race. I think it was about 4 or 5 during the race. Again, if you're taking in those gels, that's between 100 and 150 calories immediately to your bloodstream. So don't neglect that. If you've never tried that in the past, maybe you've just been drinking water and not taking in any gels, start practicing that in training, okay? Start practicing hydrating more in training and getting a better idea of how much your stomach can handle in your long runs during training, okay? My long runs were not easy, slow, and relaxed every single weekend preparing for this race, okay? Again, as I mentioned before, in other races leading into breaking 2:20 when I was 31 and breaking 2:27 when I was 35, is I was running faster long runs every other weekend, okay? Always follow how your body's feeling too. You don't have to continually focus on this exact same strategy. You run faster, a little bit, some miles or kilometers at anaerobic threshold, a few at VO2 max. It may just be a few seconds at VO2 max because, again, you're running at 95 to 100% at that particular intensity. So it may just be 2 to 3 minutes at VO2 max, dropping back down to easy recovery jog for a few miles or kilometers, then back at anaerobic threshold for a few miles or kilometers, and then another 3 to 4 minutes at VO2 max. You just need to sprinkle that in. Sometimes it's going to be like you run easy for your long runs for 2 weeks, and then you run a faster, very paced long run the third week. Okay, and then you're back to an easy long run the following week, or just doing it faster long runs twice per month or once per month. Okay, get into the habit of running faster during your long runs and not just slow and relaxed. Slow and relaxed long runs are still vital. They're still necessary in order to be a successful marathoner. You have to learn how to run to get to a point where you can go out 18 to 24 miles in length, or even out to 30 miles in some cases. There are a lot of elite marathoners out there that do go further than the marathon distance, but I do think there's a point of diminished returns where you're thinking that you're gonna, if I go 30, 31 miles, I'm gonna run a faster marathon. That's not a guarantee. Sometimes you can do everything right in training and still not meet your objective in this race. So continue to gradually build your endurance. Get that tempo run out further. Okay, when I was training for the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon, my tempo runs were out to around between 10 to 12 miles in length. Okay, usually I was at a point where I could do those anywhere from like the low 520 per mile pace to mid 530s, around that range. I did a lot of ladder drills on the track, maybe like starting off at 3,200 meter, a 1,600 meter, 1,000, an 800, 400, a 200, and then back up 200, 400, 800, 1,000, 1,600, 3,200 meter. Doing those types of ladder sets in track on the track, running at speeds that were down toward 5K to 10K race pace. That's going to get your marathon race pace to feel more relaxed and more in control as you're running. So again, we want to improve the lactate tolerance of our body. Okay, so that's absolutely essential. You're not going to do that by running long, slow, easy, relaxed long runs. Yes, you're going to build endurance. Yes, you're still going to build your overall fitness. But just don't get in the habit of doing that regularly every single weekend, okay? You have to, if you want to run a faster marathon and be competitive and be up there in these bigger races, you have to train at faster paces. So I hope this is helpful for you in terms of, how I ran a 2:26 marathon when I was 35. I still think at 47, I can run fast around that time or faster if everything goes perfectly. And again, if you're in your 30s or in your 40s or 50s, just keep plugging away, stay focused, and continue to work on your speed. Work on doing hill repetitions. That's another form of strength training. Make sure you're in the gym once per week. If you're not in the gym, make sure you're doing push-ups and sit-ups, crunches, planks. Get that core and get your core running muscles to get stronger so that you can hold up longer in your race. Make sure you're pacing and do the very best you can to do a negative split, come back faster in the second half. In most cases, that's where most of us set our new PRs. In some cases, we set PRs on positive splits when we go out way too fast and we come back slower, but we went out so fast we have a little buffer time to run faster. In this case, I went out 1:10.08, came back with a 1:16 and change. Okay. Of course, that would have been maybe 1:13 and change coming back the second half if I wouldn't have had to jump that porta john. It's just a mistake I made. But again, we make mistakes, we learn from them, and then we don't continue to make those mistakes. So thank you so much for watching this video. Check out the resources below these videos as well as on RunDreamAchieve.com. And thank you so much to all of my current subscribers and new subscribers to this channel. You are all just as much a part of this channel as I am. So thank you so much for your support, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.